Thanks for having us, bud.
Of course. Thanks for coming. Chicago, in person, finally.
Is this really Chicago, though? We're like so far removed.
So far removed from the violence.
We are. Just on the way over here, I almost got carjacked. Down Randall.
What are we talking about today?
We did tryouts, so I thought managing the learning environment is an extension of what are the tasks of a coach is. So I took it a step further as parents. Finding the right environment, I think, for your players' development is also important.
How do you find that?
Roll the dice. Roll the die. I mean, it's two of them.
If you get 12, you stay.
Yeah, I mean, what's the cutoff? I mean, how do you know when to leave your club and uproot your kid into a new environment?
Yeah. But then, how did you advise that to a player when it's time to move on? How did you realize that it is the time to move on?
I can only speak as a coach when you know you've got to get this out.
Yeah.
You know,
What does that mean?
they're just far better. You can't develop them because you're spending so much time working on the bottom half of the roster, or the kid is just light years beyond what you and the clubs can help support. You know it. You know, it's not like there's a secret recipe for this. Some kids just are ready to move on.
You can't challenge them because their teammates aren't close enough to their level.
Technically.
Or technically.
Yeah, true. There's also this other side of it too, like the desire of the player to improve is greater than the social parameters of the team.
Yeah.
You know, I see it on the girls' side a lot. There's a couple girls that are maybe a little more socially mature, but they take themselves a little more seriously. They take the sport a little more seriously.
It's different goal setting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different goal setting.
So then the other kids around you don't contribute to the same culture, or they show up and they're just, when a kid's ready to train.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you get a group of players together and the culture isn't right, sometimes it just comes from players that are looking for something more that the roster isn't offering them, or the coach or the club isn't offering them.
Yeah. I was going to say it could be the coach as well, easily.
Yeah. I think it's the hard part too, is finding the right coach to play for, or a group of coaches to play for.
And how do you have that conversation?
With who?
With a player that's outgrown the team. It's time for him to move on, or her
Player
to move on.
evals, man. Player evals.
Towards the end of the season.
I think clubs should offer at least 2 time frames for player evals, halfway through the year and close to the end of the year. But it has to happen before tryouts, before parents have to sign on the dotted line to commit thousands of dollars to stay or go. I think you do need to have honest conversations with parents and players to say, here's where they are, here's where we see the team going, here's the players we're going to add. I do or don't have a home for you.
But that's with the existing players, though, right? But how would you evaluate the players that are coming to the tryouts that you're potentially picking up and add them to the rosters? Because you obviously have very limited windows to look at them and evaluate.
Yeah.
And sometimes, obviously, I'm pretty sure we've all been there, where you pick up a player thinking, this will be a good addition to the team. But then a couple months into the training sessions, might have been wrong here.
I made one of those same mistakes. The club that we all worked at together, we were trialing on a 77 indoor field, and we thought this kid had good touches, and what we didn't check was any of the physicality.
Yeah.
He could play for a little bit, but he couldn't run 40 yards without being out of breath.
Yeah.
So you do have to get all those details right. Your tryout has to encompass all 4 pillars of the game. Some of the physicality, the endurance required is important. Just like putting them in a space on the field that allows them to demonstrate what they know. You also have to find the right matchup for the opponent. If Louie and I are trying out for the same club, put those 2 kids against each other, strong player versus another strong player, and then you kind of see maybe more of what the player profile is like. It's really hard.
But who would you rather take? Player who's physically
Louie, I'll take this.
Player who's physically well developed but technically a little bit behind, or the other way around? Technically well developed, but she might be just being pushed around and falls easy every contact. Who would you be taking for the season? Because you know that you would be willing to take that. I was gonna say a risk, but it's not really a risk. It's just late blooming, right?
Yeah.
So who would you rather take, knowing that she's going to develop or knowing that you can develop her? We're talking like 10, 11-year-olds. It's a tricky one, isn't it?
I think you would have to take the player that can impact the current environment of the team
Yeah.
the most. And maybe the other player that's not as technically sound, maybe they're having more success because of their physical attributes, but they're still impacting the game based off their physical profile. The player that is more technical but is smaller, they just can't impact the game.
No.
Right? So in order to be more competitive, you take the bigger, faster, stronger player.
And that's obviously from the lens of player development, right? As in, this kid can compete technically, but you said impacting, right? But is that for the team, for the other players?
So I think like our youth system, we have to balance development with being competitive because we're trying to retain players. Overseas academies, you won't lose a player because they're looking elsewhere. Because they're like, no, I want to be in this system up until I get to the first team.
Yeah.
So they're willing to forego short-term results for the ultimate goal of going pro.
Yeah.
And clubs know that. So they're like, we're not in any rush for anything.
Yeah.
Whereas here in the U.S., you have to showcase value to the parent to keep them loyal to the club, because you could lose them in a year.
Yeah.
Because they want something now versus being more patient. The coach is like, I'm gonna take the more impactful player, and at this moment in time, it's the player that has
Physical.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a number of clubs around here and you're competing against these other communities.
Yeah.
You do have to strike this balance of, yes, I'm trying to develop my players through a training platform. We also use games to develop the players and their understanding of the game, the laws of the game, and their role within it. You also have to go out and be competitive in the marketplace. You will lose those players. It's a 15-minute drive down the street to go to another club.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find the environment that challenges your child across both of those platforms. The coach should be competitive. Training environment should be competitive. Winning and losing isn't the only thing, but if you go out and you get beat 0-11 against your local neighbor, kids aren't going to stay at your club. Parents aren't going to. So you have to toe this line of trying to win on the weekend, but I'm going to try to do it the right way. I'm going to give all the kids playing time. I'm going to put them in a couple positions, and you have to holistically develop them in the training session, and that's pretty difficult.
Well, I mean, obviously these are the things that we see as the coaches, but as a parent, obviously you're the closest thing we have to somebody being a parent. Yeah. But so say you're not necessarily educated in the game, about the game, like you haven't played it, you just have a kid who played it, you've never played it. So how do you, as a parent, know which environment is the right environment for your child?
Does he or does he not have a British accent?
He doesn't.
If he does, go there, man.
How are they able to tell? Because obviously, I mean, we know this from more than a decade of coaching. Parents will go to different teams, tryouts, just because they had a great season the season before or 2 seasons before. They constantly win, so must be a good team. Or are there tangible criteria where the parents can tick off when they're going to the tryouts or when they're looking at different clubs?
I can only speak from like word of mouth to this degree. Parents will get together over coffee or a drink on the weekend, or they'll talk to their neighbors. That word of mouth from like one family to the next, I think it's often the criteria that people look at. They might not know a lot about the game, but if their neighbor or their peer or their friend says, little Billy or little Jenny's had a great experience at Club X, so parents take a lot of stock in the word of mouth from family to family. They're having a great time, their friends are there. You could stop after that. Most parents just want to hear that. My son or daughter are having fun, they're with like-minded children, boom, done. I don't think a lot of people put thought into club structure or curriculum or licensures for coaches. I'm not sure.
I think this is why honest like evaluation between the clubs and the players are so important. Doing it, like I said, twice a season.
Yeah.
Right, that could be a good way to increase the retention rate of the players. Just being honest and giving feedback. Essentially, that's what, at the end of the day, that's what the families want, isn't it?
Yeah, objective feedback.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of subjectivity in what we do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at it another way. You all were in a position where you had to decide, I'm going to stay at my hometown club or stay at this club that I've been at for a long time, or I'm going to move.
Yeah.
What were the decisions that your parents made?
I got sold. I got sent.
Someone bought your right.
Yeah. I remember when I was about like 8 or 9, because back in Korea we had transfer market for kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we don't have club soccer, so it was all school soccer. So if you want to play for a different team or better team, or if you're not good enough to play for this team, so you got to move. So you move to different schools, which means different cities, different like province, right? So I remember going from my hometown to 2 hours up north. I must have been 8. So you live with 20, 30 other kids that are all from all around the country. You live with 2 or 3 other coaches that are like a residential program, right? I mean, it is a residential program.
Wow.
So you train 6 o'clock in the morning before school, after school team training, and the evening by yourself, which is optional, but it never is optional, is it?
Yeah, sure.
So if you're not good enough, coaches will make one phone call, and then they'll have a conversation with you. You're gone. You gotta move. You gotta move to a different school. I mean, even as a family, you've got no choice. You can't just say, yeah, we're staying. Well, we don't have a team for you.
Wow.
You're moving. Yeah. Or it's the other way around as well. You're too good. Then coaches will, hey, I got this player for you.
Yeah.
Give me some money, and then you're gone.
Where's that money go? To the club? Or does it just go
No,
to
to the
coach's
pocket. Yeah, to the pocket. Yeah, yeah. So that's how
That's wild.
the coaches will a lot of times back then. I'm not sure about now, but back then would make a living
Wow.
developing players and selling them. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's I got sold.
What about you? I mean, you could have moved on. You stayed at your hometown club for your pathway.
Still there.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it was different for us because I was learning the system for the first time.
Campton system.
No, the U system.
No.
Right. And so my parents were
How old were you?
U10 was when I first tried out for a club team.
Yeah.
St. Charles Soccer Club.
Before that, where were you playing?
Rec.
Yeah.
Recreational. And so we were just looking at what's the next step is, which was pay to play.
Yeah.
And you don't even, at the time, you don't even know who's good or bad or,
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
you know, there's no social media. Everything was newspaper. That's how I found out that there was tryouts.
Yeah.
Was reading a newspaper clipping.
Wow.
And so now I think of parents and, you know, there's a lot of coaches that are in the system don't understand it. So parents are going to be left scratching their head. There's how many different leagues, and they're all elite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
they're
all
popping up
promise
more
the
and
same
more by the
thing.
day.
Yeah.
Right, and so for a parent, how do you keep up with changing landscape?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can only see it from this volleyball world lens that Sophia is in. And there's so many clubs. Her club's got 4 teams, and she's in the 4th of 4 teams. I couldn't tell you the difference between a good volleyball club and a bad one. You know?
Yeah.
There are some benchmarks, though, that when I'm at games, I'm looking for. I never see her directors at the games. I see Sophie's coach, and there might be another coach or 2 out there, but the leaders of the program are never at any of her games.
Okay, so I think that's a good one because obviously you're not necessarily educated to volleyball,
Right.
So how do you think you would find out more about volleyball system? What is a good club?
It sounds like I got to do it on my own. You know, parents have to do a whole lot of research and homework on their own.
Yeah.
No one's coming to us.
What would be the first thing that you research?
Geography. Want to know who's close first.
Yeah.
Gas is too expensive, man. I'm not driving all over the place. And then, you know, I've asked this of the program already. What educational pathway is there for the coaches in your program? Is it club driven? Is there U.S. volleyball where they're on a professional education pathway for coaches? You know, I don't know. I don't know if any other sport is as regimented
The
and
federation
professionalize
license,
us.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most of the coaches in our organization are in their early 20s or just graduated from college.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they've spent a whole lot of time through this certificate, licensure,
Yeah.
you know, organizational flowchart that we're in. So to mitigate that, the club has to, it does something in house. Like coaches need to come to the directors and you guys work on these X's and O's or classroom management styles or learning teaching techniques.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that occurs.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, that would be important to me. But I'm not in the norm. I'm an outlier in that sense. I think parents just look at it like, is my son or daughter playing with similarly ability children? You know, Louie and I were talking earlier. When you're in a leadership position at a club, a lot of times you're coaching 3-4
Yeah.
teams on your own, and those aren't the bottom teams in the organization. Typically, they're the first team, second team. You've got your own busy weekend schedule. There's no way you're going to the sideline of the other players in your organization. And a lot of times, the kids that are in your second, third, fourth teams, those are the players that develop.
Yeah.
It's not the kid that's perpetually in the first team year in, year out. It's the kids that you don't have a constant eye on that you do have to remain vigilant of.
Yeah.
Those players are still on their own journey. A lot of
Yeah.
times when you're going through player selections, it could be the right environment for a family to stay in their organization, but you don't know that. You don't see them play. They might need to move from second team to first team or third team down to the fourth team. You have to get the environment right to get the best out of the player, and if the director doesn't have that oversight of the club or have the time to get out there to watch, your club is going to fail.
Would you say parents sign for a team, a coach, or a club?
Ooh.
Coach.
And what should they be signing for?
Club.
Well, yes. I'm saying it like this because yes, but it's not like that, is it?
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
It should be the club, but you said coach earlier, and that's just the way it is.
It is the way it is.
Because again, the clubs will have a curriculum, but it's not applied to every coach.
Or they have like the brand or the platforms.
Yeah.
And so people will jump ship because Club A can't get into ECNL, RL, 64, or
MLS
whatever.
Next and all that stuff.
Yeah. And so they need to pick the organization that has the platform for them. However, they could have the platforms, but your child isn't good enough to get into the platform. So what's the matter? They might have MLS Next, but your player's on an MLS Next level as an athlete. So why does that matter?
But then, so earlier before the camera, we talked about not having good enough coaches, coaching shortage.
Sure.
Do you think part of it is the club's fault, where they're trying to expand horizontally too much, as in they'll have one age group, or they want as many teams within their age group, and the quality goes out the window, and they have coaching shortage.
Yeah.
So whereas if a club was focused on, say, age 7 to 13 or 14, and they have one or two teams age group,
Mhm.
per two teams per age group, and they also have limited, smaller number of coaches, well, if they can hire good people, I think the development can be, I think there's a synergy there.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times it's about, do I know anybody on that team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Those are sometimes the moments that if that's the barometer, like that's what they're using to make their decision on, you should stay in the club that you're in. If you're picking it on what other people are doing, it's not the right environment for you.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the original point. How much do the parents know about the sport or just how kids develop cognitively? Like you have to know a bit about human behavior and a bit about the nuances of the game to make an educated decision.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like picking a school to go study.
Yeah. College, you mean?
Yeah. Pick where you want to go based on the brand or the name of the school,
Yeah.
not which professor is there and then what kind of class he's running
Yeah.
and what kind of students are in there. Or if he's in there, I want to be in there. It's not that, is it? If you're going there to learn ultimately, so you want to find the right organization to go and learn.
Yeah.
So why is it different in youth sports?
I think it's so result driven in that moment.
then my question is why? Why is it result different?
Because they're paying for it, so we want instant results only because we're paying for it. It's tangible, whereas the development is not necessarily guaranteed. So I think a lot of times we get blinded by, because of the fact that we pay for it, we want something out of it, and we know that it should be the development, but because it's not guaranteed what tangible results are, forget about that, and then we go where the good stuff is, what we
Yeah.
can see.
Sure. Part about tangibility and not results are tangible. Results of matches are tangible, but players' development isn't.
No.
So as a parent, I think you end up doing more harm than good by switching clubs in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Unless the environment isn't fun for your child, or they're being bullied or harassed, or not, or and maybe they're not getting the repetitions they need from training or games. There's some really easy decisions to make. It's like low-hanging fruit, essentially. I'm going to move if these things are happening or not being afforded to my child. But outside of that, like I said, you end up doing more harm than good by uprooting your kid from a new environment, or from an old environment to a new environment.
Yeah.
And you got to acclimate to the new team, the new coach, the new system, just even down to the routines of driving to training and after school hours and time management. So there's a lot that goes into switching clubs. Until a certain age, I don't think there should be a hurry to leave, to go to another organization.
Yeah.
I guess the other piece is, if the club has multiple teams, you should be an environment that you can get games with the lower team or the top team based on
Bubble
your
player.
performance, your effort, like your attendance, your commitment. Clubs that can afford you an exponential increase in the number of games you experience when you're younger, especially like a 77 and 99 levels. I think that's huge too. We need to play the game more.
Yeah.
If you're only in one team with one game on the weekend,
Or how about, say, this is a good one, I think. How about players that stage or playing 99, maybe the next season they're going to go to 11v11, but because they want to get there early because of, they play 11 sides, glorified, right? Playing a bigger format.
yeah.
They want to move the team because the other team plays in a bigger format. What would you say to that?
I think we've lived this before, haven't we?
What would I say to a person
To the family,
that wants to move to another club because they're playing?
11v11 rather than 99.
I would ask them, what is your rush anywhere?
Yeah.
So they're gonna jump on an 11v11 field before anybody else, and for what? What are you seeking to get out of it?
You jump from 99 to 11v11. 9-a-side, you get a shitload of touches. You're on the ball. You can attack and defend. You can get through all 3/3 of the field pretty easily because it's a smaller game format, game model. You can play a couple different positions. Your playing time is increased because you're on a smaller roster. Jump to 11v11 and you go to 18-man rosters. You go to 22 kids on the field. You have the ball for a minute out of 75.
Also, you play on a pitch where men and women play.
It's huge.
What men and women.
Their
You
legs
got
are this
11-year-olds
long and
playing in Europe.
what is the hurry? Unless you're like Jason Bololi, that was 6'5" at 13 years old. There's not a whole lot of kids that can jump onto 11v11 field and don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even kick the ball sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
I don't know if there would be hurried if you told me all over again I had to play 9v9 soccer for the rest of my life. I'd love it. It's great.
So I think the hurry is that parents want tangible metrics and progress. So if you get to 11v11 before everybody else, that's progress. So it shows that you're at the right place or that you're moving to the right place, because that's progress. And then the club that's willing to appease a parent will choose that format because they're like, look what we're doing. We're gonna play up a year.
Yeah.
on a bigger field, more numbers, and that shows value to parents. And be inaccurate value, but again, in Europe, what rush are they in to get a U12 player on the 11v11 field? What rush do they have?
Yeah.
They're like, we're in no rush because we're playing the long game, which is, can we get this player first team ready by 17, 18, 19, 20 years
Because the English FA just announced a few months back they're going to be lowering the format size, will decrease the format size as well.
Yeah.
For age groups.
Mm.
They're going to go smaller.
Really?
Yeah. So they play, I think, a year or two longer at 77, 99.
They should.
Yeah. It only makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think in Germany they play a lot of 2v2s and 3v3s, especially 3-a-sides.
Hmm.
And the futsal has become a massive development
Yeah.
within soccer.
Yeah, which is huge.
Yeah.
We're in a hurry to expedite the experiences that we get. You can't gloss over any of those influential like markers in your development. Playing small-sided with kids your own age, the game model that's most developmentally appropriate for you is huge. Shouldn't be in a hurry to speed through that. You know?
And do you think that clubs will try and put the team a level above to play bigger format and play in bigger format, because bigger format equals bigger player pool, which equals to bigger revenue?
Yeah, I think that's where typically the most competitive league they're at is 11v11. You know, MLS Next doesn't offer 9 versus 9 teams. So I think that is a benchmark for some families or players or coaches is how successful are our 11v11 teams. Even though at U13 and U14 it's not about winning. People look at 11v11 results as like the end-all be-all.
Yeah.
So I think there is a hurry to get there, and I think there's a hurry to highlight success at those age groups. When at 18 and 19, but you should be counting your on-field successes as kids growing to college or signing contracts or whatever the case may be. There's a time to highlight that.
You also find it at younger age groups that maybe it's not the format, but it's the division. We're moving up to Division 1, Division A, Division Platinum, the highest division, and is that necessarily always the best? No, fact. I'm in the school of thought that initially when you're learning the game and certain patterns of play and play at a level beneath you, have success at seeing those patterns play out, have success at dribbling past players and creating goal scoring opportunities, and once you have a semblance of an identity of how you want to play, now we can start tightening the screws and place you at a higher division. We have to solve the same problems, just much quicker. We have to execute the same decisions, just quicker.
It almost reminds me of the adage, like when you go to a tournament with a team, the ideal record is 1-1-1.
Yeah.
You had a game that was a little too easy, so you win and you get to reinforce your style of play and all of those components. And you have a game that's like right at your level that you tie. The opponent's just the same mile markers as you. And then you play against an opponent that's like a buzzsaw and they beat you, and it shows you like the folly of your ways. That kind of rule of thirds and a tournament record at 1-1-1 strike me as being similar. You need some success, you need some failure, you need to be
challenged.
Yeah,
Piece of
even,
challenge.
yeah.
Well, what about families that are looking to move to a different team based on how many out-of-state tournaments they would attend, like big tournaments?
Had that before.
You had that before?
Yeah, I had a former club. Everyone on the second and third teams wanted to go travel to these out-of-state events.
Yeah.
The competition when they would get there would be worse than it would be in our home environment.
Or you go out there and you still play against the same team that's from the same town.
Team.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking to make the same trip as you.
Yep.
There is value in the team chemistry, the camaraderie, the team bonding you get when you're in a hotel.
Memories, yes.
Yeah, and parents like that vacation aspect. So I think there's a balance to strike. It is a slap in the face when you drive 150, 200 miles just to see the same team that you live 35 minutes from. Or even worse, you're in the same division or conference, whatever, with clubs that you're already competing against week in, week out. You
Yeah.
see the same familiar faces
Yeah.
a state over. Tournaments are just a moneymaker for most organizations. I have a hard time with that. If the league that you're in and your training environment is good enough, you don't need to leave town to go play. But it is a keeping up with the Joneses type of comparison. Oh, club over there, they go to these events. They're going to the state. They feel like if you're traveling, that makes you really good. It's not necessarily the case. You can go to any
They
state in
spend
the
all that
Midwest.
money.
Yeah, it's the same soccer played 200 miles from each other.
So can we educate not just the parents but the coaches and players as well that it's not necessarily the result, but how did you achieve the results? Moments within the game that your individual player was impactful. That should be success. If the team wins or loses, that's you're looking at it through a different lens. But if your player on the day had success at their position and you lost, I still think that's a win for your individual players.
I mean, it goes back to this, like, go back to a day when you were 13 or 14. Do you remember the losses? Go back and pick out one single score line from a game when you were young. One single. I got a game. And if you can, it's probably because some life-defining thing occurred. I couldn't tell you results of games when I was a kid.
Even 16, 17, 18, I can't remember
Couldn't
a
tell
single
you.
scoreline.
And if you could, it's like I said, because something monumental
Yeah,
happened in
like a
that game.
championship or something.
Yeah, or a coach said something to you that filled your cup,
or you
tore
broke
you
somebody's
down.
leg.
Yeah, right. You got red carded. I mean, there's like these really seminal moments that you can go back to, but you're gonna forget the scores of games in 6 months, not just a year.
Or even next week.
Yeah, if you're lucky. If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That tells you scores don't matter. It's about your individual development and relationship with the
it's-
coaches, and is he or she making you better?
Yeah.
Or is that the case?
I mean, that's it. The environment includes finding the right role model. And after a while, like, kids do this parent help. Mom and dad give these lectures. They talk at me all the time. I constantly hear these tenets of our family culture all the time, and parents want to use sport for life vehicle for lessons, and I get all that. And after a while, the kid's like, I'm just done. I've heard you talk about it 50 times.
Yeah.
Get in the car, you talk about it again.
Yeah.
They end up looking at the coach, by extension,
Yeah.
as a role model, and so if you find the right coach that is delivering on those like family values you have, those moral compasses that you're trying to instill in your child, I think that's also a barometer for identifying the right environment. This coach raises my child like I would want my child to be raised.
But how about talking about finding the right coach? How about families talking about, going there, they get a good coach who is very intense. That's the first word or keyword, intense.
See ya. Have fun.
Yeah.
My coach calls your kid an idiot or something because didn't make the right pass, then don't come crawling back to me.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. You can. I think that's a generational difference that we're all experiencing. We were raised differently than kids are being raised now.
But intense doesn't mean good.
Tense does not.
No.
Tense means over time your player or child is going to be fearful of that coach.
Yep.
If you're playing for someone that you're always worried about disappointing or that you're afraid of, welcome to anxiety later in life.
I mean, not the perfect comparison to make because it's a whole different environment. But if you look at managers like Carlo Ancelotti, he's not an intense manager on the sideline, right? He just very chill. Just not on there. Or he does something that he'll say something tends to carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, when he's demonstrative, people are like leaning in to hear what you have to say. They might see that you're upset about something or that you care, that passion. And then the way that he speaks to the players, like they're leaning into you, not like leaning back when they're tired of you yelling at them. They're actually like want to pick up what you're saying. That it speaks volumes. And as a coach, you have to be a master communicator. Know when to live up here, and you have to know when to dial it back.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, those guys have such a future in the game.
Yeah.